Welcome home, Olivier family. We're happy to have you here as we continue our marathon of recording sessions in Pam's house. This is home where faith and family meet. My name is Father Tim Donovan, the parochial vicar at St. Bonaventure Parish in Huntington Beach. And this is Pam Hurwitz, my co-host, and we're so excited to have you on with us this week.
Thank you.
We dive into Advent, preparing the way in our own hearts and the hearts of those that we love and all those around us. So we invite you maybe to introduce yourselves to us and those listening, something that maybe you love to do as a family or anything like that.
My name is Jeff Olivier. I have the privilege of being Pam's next door neighbor. And
the commute was short as well today, which is good.
Yes. We are looking forward to this interview, and I feel like we're amongst good friends here.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It's funny because the couple that was here before they were kind of talking a little bit about just looking ahead. They had a young, it was Matt and Elizabeth, and they have like a 11-year-old baby, and they were thinking about just the world is tough, and how do you raise your kid in a safe and wholesome and encouraging place? And we both kind of looked at each other and said, move next door to good neighbors. That
Yes.
really helps. And so, I'm so excited to have them on because these are two of the people I love the most in the world. So
Thank you.
And I am Teresa Olivier, and I am not only Pam Hurwitz's next door neighbor, I'm her best friend, and I support her in her parent ministry and as a youth minister at La Prisma Church. So it's exciting to come and talk about Jesus and preparing the way, and in amongst such an awesome setting. Jeff and I are parents of 2 children. We are not empty nesters, although when they asked us to come interview, they said, can you talk about being empty nesters? And we started laughing because our nest is full right now. We have a 29-year-old daughter, and she is living at home. She works at a university in a service missionary department, and then she also works part-time with us at La Prisma. And we have a son that is 26-year-old. He's a computer technician. He's totally interested in saltwater fish tanks and technology, video gamer. And then our most precious family member is our Rottweiler, Kira, who the entire family adores. And
they do.
I miss my Rottweiler.
Our Rottweiler is so cool. I should have invited her for the interview. She would have just barked right when we needed her to.
When she went to college with Danny, we really felt the empty nest then. We missed her.
So the dog went to college
With Danny to San Diego State.
with Danny? Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
My
It was
parents
horrible.
would never let that happen. Yeah, they
It
would
was
have been like,
horrible.
that's our dog.
We had shared parenting. I'd make him bring her home for a week or two because we just missed her so bad.
Oh yeah, dogs. Those pets definitely become part of the family for sure.
Right.
We have a crazy dog at home right now. Her name's Fiona, so it's very characteristic.
Sounds
of
like
her
high
craziness.
maintenance.
Yeah, she is. She's a diva for sure. But she is a shepherd dog, so she loves the little tribe that's at home, like the 5. And so they got her when I wasn't home, so I'm the outsider. I don't belong to the tribe, And so she's, unless I'm the only one home, then she kind of resigns to the fact that I guess she has to be nice to me. So but I only see her once a week, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But beautiful. And I've known Teresa for a long time, probably almost as long as I've known Pam, right?
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
A lot of years and a lot of ministry, a lot of ups and downs and beautiful ins and outs and all that stuff. And very grateful for all these many years. I know it's even like family in the ministry circles we have as well. So I'm very grateful for that. It's taught me a lot in my, not many years of ministry, but at least some, compared to the giants in the room. Yeah.
And I think it's really nice to have you guys too, because we've had grandparents and we've had people with young children, but another important period of parenting is with young adults, and I think there's great opportunity still because they're at a point where they really are thinking deeper, and you can have conversations with them, and they don't have little kids, because pretty soon those conversations will be harder and harder to have.
Right.
So I think this is kind of, you guys are probably seeing that just like, and I see it at your house when you're with them, just they're coming in and talking about their day, and you guys have opportunity to kind of frame things or have conversations in the midst of that.
We have adult conversations now, and it's very comfortable. I couldn't say our relationship could be any better. I'm really, really blessed with a great family relationship.
Yeah.
We're all comfortable with each other.
I think like if I did it how I thought I should have done it, I would have kicked my kids out and taught them responsibility. Like I thought that's the way I was supposed to do it, to be a good parent. But I am just rejoicing in the fact, like probably the highlight of my life right now is growing with my kids at this level, and the friendships that we would have never had because we'd be too busy to be together, that we're supporting each other, passing the torch, each activity, interacting in each other's lives. One of us cooking, one of us cleaning up, one of us running the shopping. Just everything is ambiotic. And I think this is how it used to be, like on the farms and when families lived together. It was like a team, and we just feel really blessed that we're in that season, and we would have never picked it, and yet we both secretly whisper to each other, like, dang, we got it good.
Yeah, we're gonna miss it when we really do have an empty nest.
Yeah,
we're enjoying this period.
Yeah.
I think what's beautiful in the past, it feels like after 25, something switches in us as young adults where we kind of want to be home more than we want to be out necessarily,
Yeah.
Like before that, or in our early 20s, it's kind of like as much as I can be out, the better. But there's like a little shift of like, no, I want to go home for dinner and I want to spend time with my family. And it's kind of a beautiful place my family is in right now, as being a little family of young adults, is being able to enjoy each other, spend time with each other. None of my siblings have significant others or kids yet either, so it's kind of a really cool time to interact with them as well. Yeah,
I don't want to paint the picture that it's a perfect life. I mean, we really, like, who has to unload the dishwasher can be a huge issue in my house, and because we're all a busy family, coming and going is chaotic. And so if you're out there with young adults in your house and it's just chaotic, it's just, there's a beauty in that I can't describe, but it's a hard beauty, but it's just incredible.
I think one of the other challenges of young adults today is I experience it because I minister to a lot of young adults, is that they go through kind of a mid-20s crisis, many of them. And I know some of my siblings have, a lot of young adults I work with, maybe your children as well, like this kind of like, what is my life meaning if I'm not, if it's not whipping together by 25, or, I don't have the full-time job I thought I was going to, and I didn't have move out like I thought I was going to, and all of these kind of expectations that aren't materializing can be kind of a frustrating experience, I find, with them. But it's an opportunity, I think, to be in it with them as well, like you were saying, like to process that with them. What a gift that is for them as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're very invested in their lives still. We always have been as we raise them, and it's still proven to be the best for our family. Stay very invested in their lives.
Our son worked for a technology company, and he was so happy in his job. And it was a very successful company, like a $10 million a year company with 9 employees. He played basketball with his bosses during lunch hour. It was peaceful. He was learning. And he came home this week, and the mama company just shut the entire company down. And the first thing that came into my heart was, okay, God, I wonder what you have in mind for my son. And that's the conversation that we had. It wasn't, I was like, I know you're mad and I'm with you in that. And that was so unjust and unfair. But let's think about like what God has in mind for you. Because, I mean, you're at that mid-20 age when being in a comfortable situation isn't life's goals always, but it was so great. And now what does God have for you? And I told him I'd be praying for him. And that was it. Like just a 3 or 4 minute conversation, but just always bringing God into the hardships and the pains in their lives, and letting them process that through each thing they have to chew on.
I think in those moments can be decisive moments of faith as well, because we can get mad at it, or we can get mad at God in those moments. And, why do I want faith if it's just going to be, make my life more difficult and all this kind of stuff. And so I think, or like, what does my life mean if I'm not producing or working? And there's just a lot of, I think, things that come up in those moments, but be able to have those faith conversations, even if they're not hyper interested in the faith conversation in general, it could be an awesome opportunity because they'll remember the things. That's always what I thought of when I was youth minister, even now as a priest. Like, it may not mean much in the conversation currently, but they're going to remember it and they're going to reflect on it, and it's going to come back to them and in the moments that they need to hold on to those particular truths. I think this is a perfect segue into our gospel for this Sunday. We're reflecting on the gospel for the second Sunday of Advent, and John the Baptist is in the desert and he's crying out as a prophetic voice of, making straight the way of the Lord, like preparing a path so that people can encounter the Savior when he comes. And really Advent's all about that, is preparing the way. But I think also like our whole lives are about that, preparing the way for the Lord, because it comes in different ways. Sometimes the path to the Lord is easy. Sometimes we meet him, sometimes we see him, and sometimes the path to the Lord is not. There's the mountains in the way, and the hills and the valleys and the rough roads and all of those things. But part of the process of that is always trying to make a way. And I love that there's always this thing in my mind that there's this saying that God makes a way where there is no way. And I think we as ministers and as people who are responsible for others, parents, significant others, however, whatever the relationship is, like, we really want to be able to help others encounter Christ too, to become John the Baptist for others, I guess, to cry out and continue to invite people by crying out in the wilderness of their own lives, in the wilderness of a lost job, in the wilderness of a broken relationship, of whatever that is, or just in the wilderness of not feeling particularly spiritual at that time or have a particularly strong relationship with God. I just want to read that because I love the way it's written here. It says, "Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. Every valley shall be filled, every mountain and hill shall be made low. The winding road shall be made straight, and the rough roads made smooth, and all flesh shall see the salvation of God." Like, what a great ministry to be able to help, mountains be made low and all those rough roads become smooth in some ways. We can invite grace and mercy and love into those moments. And what an awesome Advent thing to do, to be in that way.
You're just bringing to mind the story of our last Advent journey that Jeff and I had. One of our extended family members came to us over the year with an addiction issue, and we had taken him in and out of rehab a couple times. And on Christmas, the day before Christmas, he called us and told us that he was living in a Christmas tree lot inside the little box, and he was hungry and he was an addict. Could we help him? And I was just like so sad because he had just gone through the cycle 2 or 3 times, and my family had felt betrayed by his inability to make it those times. And I said to Jeff, we can't let my relative be not here for Christmas. Like, that's what Christmas is about. And my husband said, there is no way I'm bringing someone into our home that's possibly on drugs. And we just had this big, huge fight. And I went to bed and I was just crying to God, like, God, I don't know, like, how can we be more preparing the way than helping someone? But we have to be in unity as a family. And then what happened, Jeff?
I woke up the next morning. I knew that God had spoken to me directly, and he completely changed my heart.
Wow.
And we welcomed our family member into the house, and I knew that we had to give him another chance and be supportive. That was the right thing to do. So in speaking to other family members, they all joined in. And this was last Christmas, so it's been almost a year. And he has had a fantastic change in himself personally. Very successful rehab program, and we all learned a lot out of that. And I think it helped my kids to see and hear that you can, even though you're sure one day of something, if God talks to you, you better listen.
And even entering the desert of that experience that he had, you're able to hear that voice, of the word of
Yeah,
God.
that you're open to hearing that and realizing that is. I had no idea that was going to happen.
It's so hard to in this preparing the way, because it's so challenging. It's opportunity, which is incredible. But it's also can be very, very challenging. And sometimes I think, even with family members and stuff, it's almost like, okay, this is the way, and and I want to take you, and this is how we're going to get there, and and you need to follow this, and and yet this idea of just like kind of accompaniment, I mean, this idea of just sort of like, I want to go with you on the way, and whatever that looks like, and I'm going to keep trying to point us, but if we get off, or it's very difficult, because a lot of times too, just in families, and how do we, you don't know, how do we keep straight those paths, and but yet not write people off. And I mean, can be very, very difficult. It can be very, very difficult to try to, and a lot of times to a ministry, when you have found that this is the way, this is where the happiness is, this is where the peace is, and yet we can't make people always,
Well, it messed up our tradition that year. But I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, preparing the way starts out how we start our day, and we set out going to pray or doing something, and we run into someone on our way to pray that needs us, and so we have to redirect, and that is our prayer sometimes. So I think just like letting yourself just be led by God during Advent, and just saying, I want to go the way. What is your way today? How can I prepare myself? And just simply then being aware of where you are and who you're with is the way.
Yeah.
Because the way is not always having my table set, but I love to have it nice. But the way is like redirecting, making the way to making it straight is sometimes you have to go around, and then it straightens out.
Well, I mean, I don't know, this just came to me as well, but Jesus is the way, huh? And I think when he's the one leading us, the way is going to work out. And when we're open to that voice of leading us and being led by him, then when we're led by Christ, then those who we're leading get led to him as well. And I think that's the kind of what I'm hearing here as well.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how many family members all know that story and are all supportive of it and think we all know it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And witnessing to each other in that sense. I mean, if you maybe didn't take that bold stance of saying, okay, yeah, we're going to do this, maybe the other family members wouldn't have come along board either,
Right.
And kind of having that ability to lead the way because you're being led by Christ too, I think is very cool.
As we're trying to talk to people, and maybe they might be in a crisis situation where they don't want to help a family member or do it, like, I just want to say that that's part of the way, like wrestling through those feelings. I mean, and bringing them before God and just saying, you know what, I don't want to not have my Christmas dinner like this. I want it. I don't want this. And then to just say to him, like, be truthful to him where you're at in your preparing the way. Because I think he loves to be with us right where we're at on the way too. And so, as I think being on the way and preparing the way is a wrestle. and surrendering. Like it's not just oh yeah, I'm gonna go be a goody two shoes today. It's okay, fine, God, and then it's like change my heart, and it's a process. But the intention is I'm setting out today, saying I want to go the way.
And just doing that, when people see that in us, other people, our children or our families or our congregations, whoever it is that people are ministering to, they want, I think, so desperately to follow the way as well. And even when we're honest with our own struggle in the way, it gives such a permission for other people to say, oh, it's okay too. Like I can struggle along the way. I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
That this is clearly, I mean, when the valleys have to be filled and the mountains have to be brought low, that's not like a, snap your fingers type of a thing. I mean, there's some major changing there of our hearts and of situations that have to happen sometimes for the paths to be made straight for people to get there. I know that even as a minister, helping other people to meet Jesus, and sometimes even the best way that I can help make straight the path of Jesus is to get out of the way myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell people that my ministry, sometimes I just have to get out of the way to let Jesus be the one who's doing the way, leading. Because sometimes I think that there's a specific way that someone has to encounter Jesus. I remember I was on a retreat one time and I had this hard-nosed policy when I was at San Antonio that if you didn't show up as a co-teacher throughout the year, that you couldn't go on retreat. And just as a kind of thing to try to get the kids to show up, right? So then the major teachers, the adult teachers couldn't go. None of them could go. But this one girl who hadn't gone the entire 2-year process shows up in my office. I can go for this group. You're like, and took everything in me to let her go. So I did. And then here comes the Lord, so they had the little sharing at the end of the retreat. And one of the kids gets up and it was like, you know what? The place I met the Lord this weekend was when she shared this one thing. And I was like, no.
Right.
I just so much of me wanted just to be in the way of that. I wanted to control it. This is the way.
Yeah.
This is the way it happens. But the Lord is surprising always in creating a way. Maybe where there's no way, or making straight paths that are crooked, writing straight with crooked lines. And I think it's so much of it. That's for me sometimes the joy of Advent, right? It's just seeing those things happen, that he would be able to enter such a impoverished state too, that God didn't just show up in glory. He showed up in a manger, in hay, and entering those places that aren't so, glorified.
Thinking about I don't know why, well, now that we're a little into Advent, but I just, an image that, and I don't know if it's just from being a parent or whatever, but an image that just so resonates with me, or just I go to often, is just this idea of Mary and Joseph, on this trip to Bethlehem, and with in the inconvenience and the complete fear, but yet trusting, and just what must that have looked like for them? Have you any thoughts on that?
Well, I know that when I was pregnant and Jeff wanted me to go camping, it was no. So I just can't even imagine how good Mary was to get on a donkey pregnant and go with her husband. That would have been a no.
Yeah.
And so
full out pregnant, right? 9 months.
Yes.
I mean, being sick in my pregnancies and not being comfortable and having swollen feet. And I'm even every time I think of that image, I just go, oh, Mary, you're so good.
I know. But that was the way to the Savior.
Right.
And many times I resonate with that, that's what part of a big chunk of the journey is. That's what a big chunk.
I don't know how it could have been more difficult for them. Joseph had to be so trusting in her that God's hand was in this whole process. And you're right. They overcame everything. They couldn't. It's like, I can't win here. Everything was. What am I doing wrong? What they were doing, they were just on the path.
And then I get there, and then I think, at least now I'm going to be able to sleep somewhere. And then I start knocking on doors.
Yeah.
And, And it must have seemed like, dang it, is this the way? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, this can't be. I mean, this cannot be, I cannot possibly, in a few hours begin at giving birth to the Savior of the world, because it should be a lot easier than this. But
Somehow they didn't panic.
yeah.
They did find a way.
Yeah.
I remember being so mad in that situation at you one time when you took me camping, and it's like 25 degrees at night in a tent, and I have a baby, and I'm having to go in the truck and feed the baby in the truck, and I'm like shivering my teeth, wrapping the baby in sleeping bags, going, dang it, why did you take me into this job?
Yeah.
And that I just think, but yet somehow we get through these moments. Mother Mary, you're so good.
I was thinking about that making straight the path doesn't necessarily mean making it easy.
Yeah.
I think that can be, that was just in my mind right now. Like that it was like when you make straight a path or when you prepare the way, it's not to like, I don't think God is in the idea of making it easy per se, but making it meaningful and making it, us aware that he is there as well. Like even, Joseph, like with all the doors closed and things, he might've been like, did I get duped?
Right.
Into whatever this was, but trusting
Right.
like, no, like my faith is sure that this road is going to be, it's going to be made straight here. God is going to provide that way, even if all the doors and the windows continue to be closed on him,
Yeah.
in that way. I think sometimes too, we meet a lot of people in our lives in ministry and that just have a hard time knowing God in the way that we speak about him sometimes. There's just a lot in the way of that in their own lives. A lot of valleys and a lot of rough roads and a lot of mountains, even in some ways for people. And I think just bringing Christ continually into that place through loving actions is really a beginning place for that. I know even I visited the juvenile hall as a priest, and a lot of the boys know me now, and they'll talk about me when I'm there, and they'll see me walk around because I'm probably the youngest priest who shows up in juvenile hall, but we get confronted with their situations and they're so overwhelming, the brokenness that's there, and what they're going to be going back into if they get out, and all of these kind of things. And you're like, Lord, I just don't know how to make straight this path. And really, I think he's the one who does that. And I just bring him there in the form of mercy and a confession, in the form of celebrating mass or with them, or the form of just being present to them in the midst of the thing and allowing them to kind of talk to me however they talk, and believing that there's something good here, that they're worthy of the path of Christ, and that Christ is wanting to be a part of their journey as well. And I know you had shared earlier that one of your traditions was to go into the juvenile hall during this time, or Thanksgiving, is it, or Advent, or?
Well, it's usually it was actually just before that. It was right at this time, right before Thanksgiving. We would for sure help out and prepare a meal for them. And I agree that I got a lot out of going there, and the situations that you hear when they're willing to talk openly with you, whether it's boys or the girls. I never had to go through those hardships in my upbringing, and I think that you can be just a positive role model for them, and let them know that. Well, one of the things that came out of it is I know that they do need the support when they get through their time there. That otherwise it's a return visit usually. That they need family support and they need role models to think about when they get out, and they need help. So that's one of the things I'm making sure of in our relative situation, that when his rehab stint is over, it's a 1-year program he was on, that we're there to support him when he comes out, because we don't want him to fall back in the same friends. Choosing friends wisely is just to kind of segue into that. I think that's been a great thing in our family, that our almost all of our family friends, my kids are friends with the parents as well. They're good, strong Catholic images, and they're have great character, and you got to choose your friends wisely. But same thing, we're hoping that the people in juvenile hall are able to get away from the negative influences and get just even find somebody um, to be a positive influence and change their and redirect them, give them another chance at life.
Even the little action though of coming with a meal to juvenile hall, that is like such a doorway to Jesus. Like they're seeing that. I know that so many times. I remember we used to do retreats with them and they were like, wait, you're telling me like no one pays you to be here? Like it just blew their mind that you would do something out of love for them. They just don't have a lot of those experiences. Yeah.
I work with a community that there's a lot of struggles in the kids in the community. And I find that like preparing the way and opening the door is not always starting by saying Jesus loves you. I mean, some of the kids that I've ministered to, the way was come in, have a glass of water. Come in, have a package of cookies. Come in, and until there was a trust built enough that they would even honor a word that came out of my mouth. And so I think we sometimes feel like we have to take them, come in and go to stage 10. We're attending Mass every week and we're doing everything right and we're living according to the gospel principles. But the encounter starts with a shift, and it can be any kind of shift. And so I think just being mindful, like just handing out the $10 McDonald's coupon that you carry in your car to someone that's hungry is a shift. There's so many ways that we can prepare the way for Jesus to offer kindness and love to people on the messy path that we're on.
But it is really, as we sit in this living room right now and talk about Jesus, it's just, it constantly challenges me to think about like how difficult if you were abused as a child, if you were forgotten, if you were, how to ever have, how to ever even trust or, I don't know, for that light to ever even be able to be fully, that candle to be able to really burn in your, and I struggle with that a lot. Just thinking about how when I see people in really difficult situations, like how, how to, we can't change it. And I mean, and so we're like, oh yeah, well, look at how Jesus has blessed my life. But,
Yeah.
how about you?
Right. You're absolutely right. It's very difficult to find the right words that they're going to be able to relate to because they didn't have that. They didn't have that blessed life.
I grew up in the projects, so I had a very hard childhood. I was the oldest of 7 kids, and at one point in my life, I slept on a cot with another sister we were each 10 and 12, sharing a cot in the laundry room. We had, oftentimes in our life, we had like a certain amount of fruit per week, and we'd have a bag with our name on it. We couldn't eat any more than that. So I grew up suffering like that. And I just think it's so, I'm 56 years old. So, I mean, I have a lot of wisdom and I've seen God so much, but I think that once you have that encounter with him, then he uses everything for, like, he can take those bad situations and he puts on me a hunger to want to help people that are hungry. And so whatever situation you're in right now, or you're dealing with, someday when you have that encounter, or when you're in, he just takes that intense pain or that intense loneliness or that intense suffering and gives it to someone else in the compassion that's developed in me because I lived it so long.
That last line, that all flesh shall see the salvation of God. That we don't have a God who will continue to allow us to go down the path of hurt and suffering, and that he wants to be the one who draws close to us and to save us, right, in our need. And when we have that saving encounter, that's what changes us. That for all of those things, God is bigger than, he's bigger than the abuse, and he's bigger than all of those things, and he has the capacity to transform them and to change us so that we can be light in that darkness, the voice on the path, right, to the other people in those suffering situations. Nobody else can speak into situations more than the person who's gone through it in their own self, you know?
Right.
There's that certain sense of, total credibility that you get when you say, you know, I've been here too, and I know, and I'm with you. And I think that's such an important charism of the Christian too. Not the one who has the perfect life, but the one who allows Christ to dwell in their imperfection and allow his light to be the light to the path to others around him, to hold the lamp up so that other people can see the path as well.
That's what if I could say anything to people, I would just say that, like, right where we're at today in our brokenness or our wholeness, whatever situation we find ourselves in, God wants us to prepare the way. And if it's just holding your family together and bringing God into that, that's preparing the way. And if it's helping your family share with another family, that's preparing the way. So, like, I just think sometimes I feel so guilty when I listen to talk shows or things that are inspiring me. And I'm like, okay, my kitchen's a mess and I was mean to the kids today. And how am I going to ever be someone that wants to prepare the way?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that wherever you find yourself, like, really ask God, like, how do you want me to prepare the way in my circumstance? Not the way Father Tim's doing it, not the way Jeff Olivier's doing it, not the way Pam Hurwitz is doing it, but in the way that can fit into the life that he has you in the circumstances he has you in. How can I take one step towards preparing the way?
Lori, you're getting too intense for me, you know? I think selfishly, one of the reasons I do the podcast is to get for homily material, no? But one of the things we always love to invite our families to do is share as well a tradition that they find helpful or beautiful in their lives that kind of help bring Christ into the middle of these roads in their lives, or the valleys or the mountains, wherever they are, that allows faith and come into the context of your family life. And maybe it's something you do periodically, or, you know, something that you have found that's been a real help in your family life and faith.
Trying to think of one for the Advent season. Well, I mean, one of the traditions, of course, is just it's a great time of year to spend time with family, with relatives that you don't see very often, or anybody that whose families you invite them if they don't have anywhere else to go, they can join at your house. But we really, and I think just being an example of doing some volunteer work is a real good tradition at that time of year. Whether we've helped with Angel Tree, we've helped at Juvenile Hall. We've brought our kids along to help distribute gifts to families that has a parent in prison. And they'll never forget that, even at a real young age, some of the experiences that came from that. And that was, so we usually do try to do one or more of those traditions every year.
Service.
I also think, I mean, don't cut short. Like, I love, my favorite family tradition that we have has probably nothing to do with God. And that is, we take a family boating trip every year, at least once, probably 2 or 3 times, because everyone we know loves to go on boating trips with us. So we usually invite a segment of people that we know and take our kids away and just be together. And when they were little, it was us taking care of them and on the boat. And then now, I mean, with us in this generation of life that we're at. I mean, our kids have to help us dock the boat, and they cook the meals with us, and it just, any time that we're together, I think is a family tradition. So I think that's one of my favorite Olivier traditions is our boat is Jeff used to say, he used to say, I have the boating ministry.
Yeah. I've seen you participate in it.
Yeah.
He took all the Catholic teen leadership groups on the boat every year. When I worked at the diocese, we would take one
To see the Christmas lights.
to see the Christmas
and then
lights.
your trips
That was
where you would
before
take
boating got outlawed in the
kids
diocesan guidelines.
on those
but-
retreats, and they would do water skiing, and
Yeah, nonstop days of water skiing all day long. But and I've gotten some feedback many years later that things that were said on that trip, they never forgot them. It was, and we did always take some time to talk about someone's faith with them and our own faith, and just being a steady example year after year through those things. Is probably very, very good for others to see that.
Yeah, that's preparing the way.
Right.
Having fun even with people is preparing the way. You know, that shows that joy is part of the way and all of that kind of stuff. So awesome. We thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. And I hope that
Happy Advent.
Happy Advent to you and to all of our families out there, and that continue to prepare the way in that specific way. I love that, Teresa. Like, it's not in the same way for each of us because we all have different people that we're in the way of per se, or with on their way and such, and that God is going to use us specifically to help them and to lead them and to lead them into those encounters with Christ as we continue to be led ourselves.
And thank you, because I'm going to cry again, but is just for being people that have led the way for me, who really minister to me often and point and accompany me. Thank you very much.